Ah, yes. The land of Mary. The land of Mary. Maryland. So you're having this big election that's coming up in the northeastern states. You have, essentially, they're acting like Bernie Sanders is on the ropes. Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island. Now people are saying it's not just the southern states, it's fucking New York. Nah, New York is a bunch of backwards racist pieces of shit too. They're the deep south. That's Malcolm X. Stop talking about the South. As long as you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. And that's, that's so fucked up with Mark Furman. Even if O.J. Simpson is guilty, you have the incredible racism. That's how racist Mark Furman is. He is so fucking racist. Essentially, somebody that may have done it got away with it. But I'm not so sure he did it. I mean, how brazen does one have to be? That's incredible. He did it and then said all those things that he said. That's amazing. Okay, so Maryland, the land of Mary. You have this election that's coming up. It's in Baltimore. They got a Senate election. So they got other things going on besides Bernie and Hillary. Maryland has this Senate race that's going on. And then they also have a mayor. The mayor of Baltimore election is going on. And so it's huge, It's getting a ton of attention in Baltimore and in Maryland, the land of Mary. It's the first big election in the city since the death of Freddie Gray, since the riots, so there's some interest. They're talking about a huge African-American turnout in Baltimore City. Baltimore's predominantly an African-American city. And they're talking about an increase in African-American turnout. It benefits Congresswoman Donna Edwards, who's running for Senate, is what this John Fritzy guy is saying. So, that's what's going on there in Pennsylvania. There seems to be some shit going on down there. So, let's just recap. Pennsylvania has 189 delegates. Maryland, 95. 95 delegates in Maryland. Okay? And 95 delegates in Maryland is important because that's substantial compared to the other ones. Pennsylvania is 189, so it's the big, fucking cash cow. It's no 475 California, but it's substantial. Maryland's 95, Kentucky is 55, so, Connecticut is 55, so we're essentially even with Connecticut. Puerto Rico has 60. On the other hand, and Maryland has 95, and Maryland has 6 million people. So Kentucky's got 4 million people. They got 6 million. They should only have about 75 to 80, not 95. Proportionally speaking, Maryland takes more power than what they should be taking, just like Puerto Rico. Or Kentucky doesn't have enough. 55 delegates, it's not enough. Delaware is 21, which is embarrassing. Rhode Island is 24, so Delaware is less than Rhode Island. Delaware's less than Rhode Island. Okay, so Delaware is also the haven for all the tax Fortune 500 companies. It's basically the Switzerland and the Cayman Islands and Panama. We have Panama in the United States. It's called Delaware. And they, it's easy to hide your taxes, to incorporate yourself. That's why so many headquarters are incorporated in Delaware. 21 delegates. The overall process to the United States is very small, very meager, but they're monopolizing the corporate headquarters. So, 24, Rhode Island still beats Delaware in terms of delegates, and Connecticut beats Rhode Island and Delaware. Maryland beats all three of them, including Kentucky with 95 delegates, and then Pennsylvania. So this is all about the land of Mary, Maryland. It's named after some fucking queen, Henrietta Maria, the wife of King Charles I of England and mother of Charles II and James II. So who gives a shit? Some fucking royalty, some 1600 fucking royalty. She's named after some queen of the 1600s. A Catholic queen, too. A Catholic queen. So, you think that United States was invaded by a bunch of Protestants. There were Catholics here, too. So, Maryland is named after Henrietta Maria. The biggest thing that I think about when I think of Maryland, because nothing really comes to mind, with most states, with most of the 50 states, there is no culture or flavor that comes to mind. Stereotypes has a way of lingering. And so when I looked into Kentucky, I saw that there was actually technology. We have a lot of biotechnology jobs. And I was like, holy shit, that's smart. You know, that's not like the stereotype. We have the stereotypes are here. But there's also what is right about Kentucky can fix what is wrong with Kentucky. Or so it seems. But Kentucky is a border state. And so was Maryland, so was Missouri, so was West Virginia, and another state. There was 5 border states, but Kentucky and Maryland being one of the main ones. Maryland was a border state because it's like really fucking close to Washington, D.C. Union troops had to go through Maryland in order to reach the national capital at Washington, D.C. Delaware was another border state. So great Delaware, man. You just keep fucking losing all over the place. Okay, Delaware is such a fucking asshole, man. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The name is even wrong. It's an exonym of the Lenape Indians, the Lenape. The fucking Delaware Indians is what the English-speaking people called the Delaware Indians, even though they called themselves the Lenapes. And so the Lenapes are the Native Americans that were running around Delaware River. That's what we are talking about when we talk about Delaware. We're talking about the Lenapes, the Lenape Indians. So their name is all fucking wrong. They're the tiny, insignificant fucking state when it comes to the delegates. Puerto Rico is more important than Delaware. Rhode Island is more important than Delaware. And I don't know why I'm shitting so much on Delaware. It was a border state, but that means they wanted fucking slavery, but they wanted to be part of the Union. They wanted both. We're not going to secede from the Union, but we're going to keep our slaves. And, you know, that was good for what, about 2 years? For 2 years that held up. And so, you know, I don't know. I guess I find kinship with it, but that's the reason why we have brother versus brother. We're not South, we're not North, we're very much middle. And so I would say all these other states are middle too, so it makes Kentucky unique. I think the Civil War was the Second American Revolution, and so I think the culture that it stems out, we're still having this conversation, we're still debating Confederates and states' rights, and whether it was over slavery and all the propaganda, we're still talking about this shit. 1861, and you know, here it is, fucking 150 years later. So I shouldn't hate Delaware because that gives us a kinship. There should be countercurrents in Delaware that actually makes it redeemable, unlike Mississippi. Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, Missouri, and West Virginia. West Virginia, the entire state actually broke off for what they were about to do. And there's a little spat here. So Maryland, the Union troops had to go through Maryland to reach the national capital. Washington, D.C. had Maryland also joined the Confederacy. Washington would have been surrounded. There was popular support for the Confederacy in Baltimore, Southern Maryland, the Eastern Shore. This is the border states on Wikipedia. Now, it's fantastic. So Lincoln is going to suspend habeas corpus. So the state legislature didn't want to succeed, but it also did not want to aid in killing Southern neighbors in order to force them back into the Union. Maryland's wish for neutrality within the Union was a major obstacle, given Lincoln's desire to force the South back in the Union militarily. So protect the national capital, Lincoln suspended habeas corpus, imprisoned without charges or trials one sitting U.S. congressman, as well as the mayor, police chief, entire board of police, and the city council of Baltimore. This is war. Shit's war, right? So you're allowed to suspend habeas corpus. You're allowed to break all the laws. In wartime, especially wartime, Nixon said that if you're the president, it's not illegal. You're the face of the nation. You're the Queen Elizabeth, you know, you're the face of the nation, and you have power. You have veto power, and you sign, and you're the executive, and you are the commander-in-chief. So he suspended habeas corpus, imprisoned without charges or trials one sitting U.S. congressman, as well as the mayor, police chief, entire board of police. So he arrested all the police in Baltimore, the entire city council of Baltimore, the mayor, the police chief, a congressman. Chief Justice Roger Taney, acting only as a circuit judge, ruled June 4th, 1861, in Ex parte Merryman, that Lincoln's suspension of habeas corpus was unconstitutional, but the president ignored the ruling in order to meet a national emergency. On September 17th, 1861, the day the legislature reconvened, federal troops arrested without charge 20 7 state legislators, 1/3 of the Maryland General Assembly. So he went after the state government as well. They were held temporarily at Fort McHenry and later released when Maryland was secured for the Union because a large part of the legislature was now imprisoned. The session was canceled and representatives did not consider any additional anti-war measures. The song Maryland, My Maryland was written to attack Lincoln's action in blocking pro-Confederate elements. Maryland contributed troops to both the Union, 60,000, to the Confederate armies, 25,000. Those numbers are similar to Kentucky's, only we provided more for the Union. We also freed more blacks. There was about 25,000 black folks that fought for the Union. 75,000 of the white folks fought for the Union too, 25,000. So it's about the same. White people fought for the Confederacy and black people were free, 25,000 for each. But it's 100,000 and 25,000. So 100,000 total fought for the Union. 25,000 of those being black, former slaves, ex-slaves, now freed slaves. They won their freedom by picking up the gun and saying, God damn it, we're not going to take this shit no more, versus 25 pieces, racist, traitorous pieces of shit who goes back into, into fucking 850 years ago, to their logic that they used 150 years ago, which was, let's protect the 1% plantation owners. Let's protect the 10,000 slave owner, wealthy, rich slave, or poor whites. We're being drafted into this, but we're going to defend their right to own slaves just so we could feel better or superior to somebody else. We like the racial dictatorship in either A, we did it wholeheartedly and we're excited and couldn't wait to fight and die for a bunch of wealthy slave owners, or B, we had no other choice and we were drafted in order to support it, and unfortunately thought follows behavior. So once you were out there fighting for the Confederates, it's hard to not see their point, after a while. So that's a thing with Maryland. I have a kinship. I'm from Kentucky, so that's with Maryland. I have a type of kinship there. I think that the Baltimore race is actually more important, so I'm going to look more into the Baltimore race, the mayoral race, and the Senate race. What the fuck is going on there? Because Maryland, the land of Mary, is a fucking huge deal. So I'll be, His 1963 Northwest Passage expedition in the ship Henrietta Maria, Captain Thomas James named the Northwest headland of James Bay, where it opens into Hudson Bay, for her. The U.S. state of Maryland is named in her honor by her husband, Charles I. George Calvert, 1st Baron Baltimore, submitted a draft charter for the colony with the name left blank, suggesting that Charles bestow a name in his own honor. Charles, having already honored himself and several family members in other colonial names, decided to honor his wife. The specific name given in the charter was Terra Moriae, anglicized Maryland. The English name was preferred over the Latin, due in part to the undesired association of Moriae with the Spanish Jesuit Juan de Mariana. So, Maryland, the land of Mary, was named by Charles I in order to honor his wife. And what did she do? I mean, she's a queen, so maybe she actually accomplished something. But this makes me think of Elizabethtown. This makes me think of the town of Judy, the town of Nancy. What the fuck you think Judy and Nancy and Cynthiana, right? Cynthiana is named after Cynthia and Anna. There were 2 daughters, and the father put the 2 names together. Elizabethtown, Nancy, Judy. These are all lovers or, daughters. They were just existence. The man just loved their smile. And so that's all good and all. Someone was like, oh, you resent that. No, actually, I love that. That's the exchange, right? But that's the fucking mentality. Some women all day long just do their hair and do their makeup and do nothing else. It's just their appearance. It's just about their looks. And the point is to capture my attention. And if I like that and just want to have that around me, then she wins. She gets it all. She gets, and so I think it's a weird conundrum. It's sort of like how, when you I don't know, when I think of children, okay, and women could very much act like children in order to get their way. That's their intention. That's what they're trying to do. But because they're innocent and naive and simple, you want to protect their entire world. So it's not like a power they could just say, no, you do as I say. But I'm sure they have their temper tantrums. I'm sure they could be really ugly. But that's how they get their way, right? They have to have some kind of will to power. They can't just be like, you know, someone's fucking pet or someone's plaything, and that's good enough. One other thing, a transvestite pointed this out to me, and he, you know, they're men dressed as women, and the transvestite was like, and then I hope that man, you know, will, you know, maybe he'll like what he sees, and therefore, what, she wins and gets the, you know, gets a hold of his dick, and then she gets all the fucking power. Well, that's Marilyn Monroe didn't mind being a woman. She says, I don't mind living in a man's world. Just let me be a woman in a man's world. And so that doesn't sound like that's a fucking bad thing at all. If you're, I guess, pretty. If you're not pretty, then I guess that doesn't do much for you. My thing is that the pretty thing I like. But if you're just doing your hair and makeup all day long, just worrying about whether or not you're pretty and just giggling and someone else takes care of you, I don't relate to that. You know some science, you understand my ambition, you try to get me to go where I'm going, you tell me jokes, you like the craft of a joke, right, the setup and then the punchline, and then it's not just I'm going to be silly until I until I get you to laugh. Some shit just isn't going to be funny, some shit is just going to fail, but that's what happens. You stick yourself out there, you fail. And science, you know, I posted something and I got no response to it on Facebook recently, but it had to do with how reality isn't as it seems. Quantum mechanics, you know, whether something is a particle or a wave, these things are in dispute. And so if we don't even understand reality, and she thinks, oh, he likes how I look, therefore I win everything. That's good for her. You know, if anything, that shows my weakness. That shows that, you know, apparently all it takes is a pretty smiling face to win me over. But I think that's the least of what I want. Yes, you need to be attractive to me. Yes, you need to be, you know, beautiful. I need to find you attractive, and but also I need to be able to interact with you. I need to be able to laugh and enjoy life and company without thinking that you're just trying to manipulate me and control me and oppress me. And that's all you give a shit about. That's all you want to do is just tell me, look over here, look over there, I own you. And then you get to be insecure and fucking throw tantrums, and then I'm supposed to put up with all this shit. If you're the one leading the fucking ship, I need for you to know that you're fucking smart and that you actually have my interest, that you have my best interest in mind. You don't have that, that's not good enough for me. That's not good enough. Maybe if I'm wealthy, maybe I could just take care of a fucking, you know, a woman child. A woman child who just wants to giggle and, you know, just do her hair all day long. And, you know, I think that I could be satisfied with something like that. But me being a struggling working class man out here today, no. I need something better. I need something better. So, Mary Land, the land of Mary, right? All after this fucking queen. And, you know, we fought against the monarchy. And yet, even in Louisville, we carry on these imperialist fucking kings, queens, princess, and president. President should be, you know, that's the strongest thing, word out there. Senator, elected president, elected senator, elected governor. Democratically elected. A king, just because they was born in the right family, and then all that incest, and then they, you know, their fucking faces melting and shit. No, that's just because you inherited, that doesn't mean it should be to the most qualified, to the most, you know, who the people believe. You are ruled by the consent of the governed, and that's fair, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So fuck a king, fuck King Louis XVI, and fuck Henrietta Maria of France. Another French fucking imperialist, you know, Henrietta of France. So here's who this Henrietta Maria is. She's a queen consort of England, Scotland, and Ireland as the wife of King Charles I. She was the mother of his two immediate successors, Charles II, James II. Her Roman Catholicism made her unpopular in England and also prohibited her from being crowned in an Anglican service. Therefore, she never had a coronation. She began to immerse herself in national affairs as civil war loomed on the horizon and was compelled to seek refuge in France in 1644, following the birth of her youngest daughter, Henrietta, during the height of the First English Civil War. The execution of King Charles in 1649 left her impoverished. She settled in Paris and then returned to England after the restoration of her eldest son, Charles, to the throne in 1665. She moved back to Paris, where she died 4 years later. So, what the fuck she was queen, she ruled things, she didn't rule things. She was a Catholic. That seems to be the only fucking thing I know about this Henrietta Maria. She was Catholic, and the King Charles I loved her enough to name a city that eventually became the state. So, the land of Mary, is Mary that goddamn special? There's something about Maryland. There's something about Maryland. Maryland, the land of Mary. It's Maryland. You ain't from around here, are you? The way we call it is Maryland. We call it Maryland, so if you don't call it Maryland, you just don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, okay. This seems actually like a good thing. Native Americans, I always see the etymology of Native Americans with these states. They say that the first permanent settlement in what is now St. Mary's County, choosing to settle on a bluff overlooking the St. Mary's River, a relatively calm tidal tributary to the mouth of the Potomac River, where it empties into the Chesapeake Bay. The site was already a Native American village when they arrived, but settlers had with them a former Virginia colonist who was fluent in their language, and they met quickly with the paramount chief of the region. He knew of white men from communication from native tribes to the south and west in Virginia, and he was eager to gain technology such as guns and gunpowder from the Maryland settlers. He met the settlers shortly after their arrival and soon reached a treaty with them, almost immediately agreeing to sell them land. So they bought the land. They didn't kill any Native Americans. It was bought right out. So that's exciting. Later on with the history, we're going to find out that there was like the English Civil War. The fucking Catholics and the Protestants were still warring even over here. There's something, the Beaver Wars, the relations with the Susquehannock. The province of Maryland in 1642 declared war on the Susquehannock Indian nation. The Susquehannock, with the help of the colony of New Sweden. Remember, it wasn't just the English colonists here or the Spanish and the French, but you also had Sweden and the Dutch. So the Swedish, the Dutch, they were here. The Susquehannock defeated Maryland in 1644. So actually, New Sweden had allied themselves with the Susquehannock and defeated the land of Mary, the Catholic English colony. In 1644, the Susquehannocks remained in an intermittent state of war with Maryland until a peace treaty was concluded in 1652. So for 10 years, the Susquehannock, New Sweden, were fighting against the British Maryland. She was a fucking French. So wait a second, if they're named after a French queen, are they French or are they English? And is that, when did they go from being English to being British? British is the island. English is the language. And that's how Germany was created. They got all the German-speaking lands and united the German-speaking lands. So theoretically, could we have a Führer that tries to unite the English-speaking lands of today? Yes, I think so. I think it's very, very possible. So Susquehannocks kept on fighting for 10 years. As a result, they traded almost exclusively with New Sweden to the north. Records from this era are poor, and accounts of these early conflicts are incomplete. In the peace treaty of 1652, the Susquehannock ceded to Maryland large territories on both shores of the Chesapeake Bay in return for arms and safety on their southern flank. This decision was also related to the Beaver Wars of the late 1650s, in which the Haudenosaunee, aka the Iroquois, swept south and west against other tribes and territories to expand their hunting grounds for the fur trade with the help of Maryland's arms. The Susquehannock fought off the Iroquois Confederacy for a time, and a brief peace followed. So that's nice, right? They were killing the Susquehannock, but then they became friends with them at the end. So, you know, that's the Native Americans, that the tribe, you know, that they bought it. They didn't take it over. They bought the land. So this is a nice whitewashed history, or there is actual hope. Maybe there is some hope. Maybe we can get justice. If, you know, you can't get justice on the stolen land, but maybe you can get justice on a bought and outright paid for land. I think that's possible. So, who is running for mayor? Short, quick facts. You have Maryland has 6 million people. It's ranked 19th in total population. Its capital is Annapolis. The largest city is Baltimore. The largest metro is the Baltimore-Washington metro area. So Baltimore's like right there, right? With Washington, D.C., it's like right there. It has to be. Washington metro is Washington, D.C., not the state. It's on the opposite end of the country. So the highest point is the Hoy Crest. The lowest point is the Atlantic Ocean. That used to be called the province of Maryland. It's the state, 7th state to be admitted into the Union in 1788, April 28th. The governor is Larry Hogan, a Republican. The lieutenant governor is Boyd Rutherford. The legislature makes up, it's got a general assembly that's got 2 houses, the Senate and the House of Delegates. So not House of Representatives, but House of Delegates. So delegates are represented. That's our system. That's the republic. When you argue about, oh, it's a republic, and then bitch about the delegates, you don't understand the system. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm like, holy shit. Democracy is a good thing because turnout is so low. 10-20% of the people vote. Give me tyranny of the majority. When do the majority actually gang up on somebody? You know, they say to stop with homosexuals, but that's not the majority. That's the 10% who voted. And then those people, those minority people, are putting their fucking bigotry on others. So that's minority, tyranny of the minority, of other minorities. So that's not tyranny of the majority. I think when the people are paying attention and the people are looking at what's going on, I want the mob. I want people looking at it. I want to have town hall meetings like on the Gilmore Girls, where the town gets together and decide on all the major issues confronting all of us as a people. And then we decide on those, you know, as a collective body, and then those ideas are implemented. That's fucking democracy. And that's the way shit should work. That's the best way. The pure democracy, we all vote on all the issues. And so, if you're not even doing that, you're not participating in the government, you're not actually the mayor or the person who goes to the fucking councils and see what's going on, and you're not voting, you're not doing anything. You're not even a part of this fucking nation. You know, that's a civic society. The people who are talking about the chattering classes, that's the civil society. And that's the civil society that is going to keep this state, you know, operating for many, many decades. We need a civil society. We need it to be cultured and cultivated. So, the area is comparable with Belgium. It's got 12.4 square miles. The 42nd largest, 9th smallest. It's closest in size to the state of Hawaii, which is the next smallest state with 10.9 square miles. The next largest state, its neighbor West Virginia, is almost twice the size of Maryland. Twice the size, with 24.2 square miles. So, let's see. America in miniature, whatever. You can read up all about Maryland if you want to. If Maryland votes for Hillary Clinton, fuck you, Maryland. Just like with New York. I don't feel bad about 9/11 anymore. Every one of you states are showing your asses. You're showing which, you know, where you stand on the most important moral question of our day. Right now, in the Democratic primary, we're having the conversation that we usually have in the general election. Do you want the fucking Republican, the centrist, right-wing, corporate, Wall Street, warmonger, fascist? Or do you want the liberal, the one who cares about people and says, not we, us, has little birds staying on the podium, has nature, has endorsed Bernie Sanders? And so, you know, if you're a state that wants to go the opposite direction, then fuck you. Fuck the South. Fuck, Nevada actually fucking switched their shit, so good job for Nevada. They were Hillary Clinton, but then they became Bernie Sanders. So hopefully that shit continues to happen. Now, Maryland, here we have, I do want to talk about their mayor race and their senator race, but I want to make this one quick point. They were founded, it was Maryland City and then became Maryland State, but the original Maryland, it was in Maryland's county, Maryland, overlooking St. Mary's River, so Mary was all over the fucking place. But the Native American village that they had lived on, let me find out who these settlers are. So, accompanied and led by Leonard Calvert in 1633, two ships called the Ark and the Dove set sail together. So, Christian, right? The Ark and the Dove, like the Ark of the fucking Covenant, or the Noah's Ark. And then the Dove, right, that comes back and shows that there is land. They set sail together with settlers. There were Jesuit missionaries, Catholics, extreme right-wing Catholics, and indentured servants. So, fucking poor Irish and Scots people who, were slaves for 7 years in exchange for the travel and the piece of land. So, after a long, rough sea voyage with a stopover to resupply in Barbados, they arrived in what is now Maryland in March of 1634. They made their first permanent settlement in what is now St. Mary's County, Maryland, choosing to settle on a bluff overlooking the St. Mary's River. St. Mary's County, St. Mary's River, the land of Mary. I don't know what this original city was actually called. I guess the naming of St. Mary's City, since everything else is fucking St. Mary's, right? So, St. Mary, are we still talking about fucking the Queen? The Queen's a goddamn saint now? Come on, if you're a queen, you cannot be queen and a saint. You can't be both. I mean, and she didn't do anything, so maybe she was a saint, right? Oh, she never killed anybody. She never exercised her authority whatsoever. She turned the other cheek, right? Isn't that fucking wonderful? So, the original Indians of St. Mary's City was called the Yaocomico. So, the Yaocomico was a branch of the Piscataway Indian Nation, but the settlers had with them a former Virginia colonist who was fluent in their language. They met quickly with the paramount chief of the region, and then the chief sold 30 acres of land there to the new colonist. So, the Yaocomico village, Yaocomico, were the first Native Americans under where St. Mary's sits today. So, theoretically, the chief sold 30 acres, which actually gives them a more of an honest start than the white people that just comes and takes fucking land, out of the blue. So I own this by right of conquest, like fucking barbarians. I was here first, it's mine. Why? Because I'll shoot you if you try to take it from me. Oh, okay. Well, okay, man. Shit, that's yours. And then that's when private property began, right? As soon as one man convinced the other man that, hey, this is my fucking area, my spot. So the Yaocomico branch of the Piscataway Indian Nation settlers had with them a former Virginia colonist who was fluent in their language, and they met quickly. They sold the 30 acres, but they said that it was Tayak Kittamukwand, who was a paramount chief of the Piscataway Indian Nation, ordered the village cleared and sold it to the English newcomers. So that would be the Piscataway. Tayak, a man named Tayak, also called Kittamukwand in his Native American language, Kittamukwand, also known as Tayak. And so Tayak was easier for the fucking Anglicans to pronounce. And then he sold the land that the Yaocomico village was sitting on. So how related were the Yaocomico village with the Piscataway, the Indian nations? It seems like he was like, oh, they're weak little fucking Indians. Well, I'll sell it to you and then just, clear them out and then give it to the English newcomers. Of course, Tayak wanted to develop them as allies and trading partners, especially for their gunpowder, weapons, food, liquor, farming implements, metalwork, and their advanced technology. For some time, the Piscataway, their tributary tribes, and the English Marylanders coexisted peacefully. So that's sweet. So Tayak was actually helped. No, wait, Tayak is a commune in the Gredon department of Aquitaine in southwestern France. Okay, so Tayak got a name in France, but Tayak was the fucking leader of the Piscataway fucking tribe, whatever I just said. So here's the Yayo-Kamiko. The Yayo-Kamiko were an Algonquin-speaking Native American group who lived along the north bank of the Potomac River near its confluence with the Chesapeake Bay in the 17th century. They were related to the Piscataway, the dominant nation north of the Potomac, but they didn't say they were a part of it. They were related to them. The settlers who arrived to found the English colony of Maryland, the land of Saint Mary, Henrietta Maria, the most glorious saint, the greatest woman to ever fucking walk the face of the planet, greater than MLK's wife, than Jane Sanders and Cleopatra, Henrietta Maria. Let's name the whole fucking state after this fucking asshole. So, the tribe disappeared from the historical record by the late 17th century. So that's fucking great. The Yayo-Kamiko were the ones sitting at St. Mary's City. The fucking other people, the Piscataway, sold the fucking land that wasn't even there. So the Piscataway sold land of the Yayo-Kamiko, and now the Yayo-Kamiko don't even fucking exist. All because of these, Jesuit, indentured servant, fucking Catholic settlers of the land of Mary. In the land of Mary, they're gone. And they'll say, oh, probably epidemics, right? Oh, it's epidemics and disease. Yeah, bullshit. Yeah, right. After they were paid, they probably fucking executed them. Hell, it was probably the Piscataway that killed the Yayo-Kamiko. And is anybody else worried about this shit? Where the fuck are the Yayo-Kamiko? Okay, where the fuck are the Yayo-Kamiko? If I find anything about that, I'll come back. The Piscataway tribe, they were constituting the most populous and powerful native polities of the Chesapeake Bay region. They spoke Algonquin, Piscataway, a dialect of Nanticoke, one of their neighboring tribes whom they merged after a massive decline of population following 2 centuries of interactions with European settlers, called them Konoi. 2 major groups representing Piscataway descendants received state recognition as Native American tribes in 2012, the Piscataway Indian Nation and Tayak Territory. The Piscataway Konoi tribe of Maryland. Within the latter group was included the Piscataway Konoi Confederacy and subtribes and the Cedarville Band of Piscataway Indians. All these groups are located in southern Maryland. None is federally recognized. So they got state recognition of the Piscataway Indian Nation and the Tayak Territory. But Tayak, who the fuck is Tayak? He took it away from the Yayo-Miko, the Yayo-Kamiko. The Yayo-Kamiko. Where the fuck are the Yayo-Kamikos? There are no Yayo-Kamikos. Say that word fucking 20 times until it's in your brain. Okay, Maryland, you're responsible. The entire state of Maryland, you are responsible for the Yayo-Kamiko. Where the fuck are the Yayo-Kamiko? What the fuck did y'all do with them? And then you're a goddamn border state, so you want to be part of the United States but just own slaves. And then, 25,000 of you all fought for the Confederacy. Get the fuck out of there. You all said that fucking close to D.C. Abraham Lincoln was the Second American Revolution, and he is better. He is saying the United States, we are one people. This land is together. Are you not glad that 50 states are united today? That we're able to drive all the way to California, to New York, that we are, still together? Could you imagine what this country would be like if we did fucking separate, if there was a Confederate and a United States? That would be fucking crazy. That would be bullshit. Fuck the Confederates. They were against the USA. Anybody that wears the Confederate flag and the American flag, you guys are fucking hypocrites. You're such fucking hypocrites. You don't understand your history. Those 2 nations were against each other. They were opposed to each other. You got to pick one. The Confederacy or the United States. You don't get them both. What? Because you love America but hate black people? That's why you fly them both? Fuck you. You don't represent me. Okay? I'll fly the American flag in defense of Abraham Lincoln, because that was Abraham Lincoln's dream, for the Union to be maintained. And he won. And so great. We all get to fucking be one big happy fucking family together. So they have no ending. The fucking Yayo-Kamikos. So the Yayo-Kamiko blood is on Maryland's hand. The people of Maryland today, you exist. You live on stolen territory. You lived on a raped fucking land. There's blood on your hands, and for each succeeding generations. Just because you bought it from, one tribe cannot take over the other tribe and say, well, hey, I paid the Iroquois for this land. Well, it's the fucking Shawnee land. Well, that doesn't fly. That's no good. That is unacceptable. Okay? So, the Yamiko, supposedly, they liked them and they treated them nice and shit. Half of them left immediately. The other half stayed. And they were invaluable because they helped the colonists to survive, very much like Squanto. Father Andrew White, a Jesuit missionary priest and early Maryland settler, Andrew White, described the Yayo Kamiko in detail. They dressed in deer skin decorated with natural objects such as shells, animal teeth, and feathers. Their bodies were painted in different colors. They drew red and blue lines on their faces. The women wore tattoos on various parts of the body and used man-made beads to adorn their bodies and clothing. White claimed the Yayo Kamiko were such skilled archers that they could throw a stick in the air and hit it with an arrow before it hit the ground. The Yayo Kamiko had a loose structure of government and generally peaceful relations with other Algonquin tribes. They cultivated the staple crops of the woodland natives, varieties of corn, beans, and squash. Their agricultural technology was actually more advanced than the Europeans. They had also more things to grow. They never seen, corn is native to the Americas, just like tomato and potato and chocolate and vanilla and lots of things. Deer, white-tailed deer, bison. In addition, they gathered foods, fished, and hunted in the rich coastal environment. The first European settlers described a number of native celebrations throughout the year, often involving feasting and music. Their instruments were made from readily available materials and included rattles, drums, and flutes. So that's the Yayo Kamiko. And that's fucking awesome, man. Rattles, drums, they're instrumental, musical, they got flutes. They're raising fucking things, they're fishing, they're hunting. They had feasting, music, celebrations. The way they painted their bodies, red and blue lines on their faces. The women had tattoos. And then they, there's beads or whatever. So they had deer skin clothing, dressed in deer skin, decorated with natural objects such as shells, animal teeth, and feathers. White claimed the Yayo Kamiko were such skilled archers that they could throw a stick in the air and hit it with an arrow. So, whoo, 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 and then fucking get it, That's spectacular. It's almost like Robin Hood, right? In the Disney's rendition of Robin Hood, So, who are these senators and who's trying to be the fucking mayor of Baltimore? Recently, in the Freddie Gray case, the second officer is being forced to testify against the colleagues. Judge Barry Williams granted a request from prosecutors to force Garrett Miller, to testify against Officer Edward Nero and Lieutenant Brian Rice as they await planned trials May 10th and July 5th, respectively, according to the Associated Press on Fox News. Defense attorneys for Miller, who faces scheduled trial July 25th, opposed the motion. Nero, Miller, and Rice are among 6 officers being prosecuted in Gray's death. Each faces assault, reckless endangerment, and misconduct in office charges. Rice faces an additional manslaughter charge, as does Officer William Porter, Sergeant Alicia White, and Officer Caesar Goodson. Goodson has also been charged with second-degree murder. And good. They fucking murdered Freddie Gray. They fucking murdered him. That's an execution. They're the judge, jury, and executioner. No, there needs to be civilization. There needs to be law and order. If the fucking judges ain't doing their goddamn then you don't need fucking rogue cops. They're gangs. And if you don't like gang violence, you don't like gang bangers, then stop, putting badges on them. So Officer Caesar Goodson, charged with second-degree murder, and William Porter, Alicia White are also charged with, manslaughter. But Rice, too. So there's 4 people. Brian Rice, William Porter, Alicia White, and Caesar Goodson. They killed somebody. That's life in prison or the death penalty. You can't just kill people. Just because you're a sadistic fucking psychopath? Because you beat somebody up, you throw them into the back of a van and drive them around because it's so fucking funny to hurt people? You're a bunch of masochistic, sadistic fucking psychopaths. You have no empathy, you have no anxiety, you don't care about other people. I bet you were probably spanked too, as children. Right? Nobody gave a fuck about you. And so you started laughing when other people got hurt. What if other people's pain isn't funny, you know? Don't laugh at me. Don't call me names. Don't get your pleasure from my pains. In God's eyes, we're all the same. One day we'll all have perfect wings, according to Garth Brooks. So that's good. I'm glad that this case is continuing. This is the 20th that this article was written, so 3 days ago. The guy, Garrett Miller, is being forced to testify against Edward Nero and Brian Rice. Good. And to William Porter, Alicia White, Caesar Goodson, and Brian Rice. Fuck you all. Fuck y'all. Y'all murdered a man. So, you know. The activist running for the mayor of Baltimore, DeRay McKeeson. He's a Black Lives activist. This is exciting stuff, okay? 30-year-old activist in a blue vest who's looking to take over as the next mayor of Baltimore. DeRay McKeeson is always invited to all these shows. I see him on NBC, Stephen Colbert. He's always, like, you know, giving his perspective on a lot of different things. And he seems, you know, pretty articulate. I don't know his position on things. He pisses a lot of people off. But he's going around, you know, running. And so that's exciting. So he announced his campaign early February. He insists I'm not a politician. If you're running for a political office, you're a politician, okay? I understand. I'm not a politician, but I really am. That's nice. It's cute. But maybe I'm not a traditional politician, right? You're a political outsider, and you're trying to... Okay, I get that. And you're for the people. I understand that. But you're a politician, and actually young politicians are good things. So he pushed for change from the outside. He's trying to push it from the inside. He's going around, let's see, talking to people. At the end of his 30 days for 30,000 campaign, makes one more push to the polls. March 26th. Oh, they're canvassing. March 26th, he's going around shaking hands. I'm seeing pictures. So, I don't know who the fuck he's running against. The only person I know is this DeRay McKeeson. And, fucking, if you're in Baltimore, elect DeRay McKeeson. That's probably the best thing that would come out of this Freddie Gray and Baltimore riots conflict. That's what happened in Cincinnati. They had a riot, and then we got a black mayor, and then we got a citizens complaint authority group, so the cops had to check. And so there was progressive, you know, things that happened that occurred afterwards. Like Martin Luther King says, like, violence is horrible, but a riot is the language of the unheard. A riot is the language of the oppressed and the unheard. And so what are they saying? Look, nobody gives a fuck about us, so I'm going to get mine. And that's capitalism, actually, right? If you could fuck somebody over, if you're a corporate person, Mitt Romney, and you buy a company and fire everybody out and steal all their pensions, that's capitalism, man. That's fucking good. That's fucking slick. In fact, that's how our nation was started with, right? Maryland, it was they brag about the tolerance of religion. They're a Catholic fucking nation. They tolerated Protestants for a minute or so. But it was all about corporations. It was about making money. So who gives a shit what your fucking religion is? Come in here, get some money. Get people in here, start developing things, produce tobacco, send it back there. Make money. Make money. That's what they wanted. And so yeah, you know, Black Lives do matter. There's a tribute video here by Prince and the Black Lives Matters activist. Judge grants motion to force second officer to testify in 2 upcoming trials. So, you know, here's the famous pictures of all of them. And you can see the white guy isn't looking directly. The black woman and black man and white, the ones on top. Black man, black woman, white man, all looking right at me. This guy on the bottom left here who's balding. 2 white male balding, you know, people, and then 1 with hair, and there's a black dude. So 2 white men on the bottom and 1 black dude on the bottom. Neither one are looking at the camera when they took the picture. The Caesar Goodson, Alicia White, and Garrett Miller. So Garrett Miller is the one being forced to testify against Caesar Goodson and Alicia White. Caesar Goodson was charged. So these two people looking right at us are actually saying that they have no shame, right? They have no shame. They're going to look right in the camera. But then you have Brian Rice is on the bottom left, and he's kind of like, what the fuck happened? William G. Porter and Edward Nero, none of them are looking. So William Porter, remember, God, that beautiful fucking prosecutor out of fucking Baltimore. See, there's a sense of justice after Ferguson, after New York, and you know, with the Baltimore riots. There's a sense of justice now. I don't remember cops ever being charged with anything in my lifetime. This is the first time, and that's good. I mean, I remember there was a drunk, one cop arrested another cop actually in my hometown. And I think that just makes you think, like, how the fuck does one cop arrest another cop? I guess it's who gets the handcuffs on the other guy first. But, yeah, I was going to go through them and just say who I like and who I don't like. But really, the murderers, fuck the ones who killed and the ones who don't want to kill. You know, those are good. I'm going to check out Prince's thing, and then I'm going to come back with the Senate race. You know, there's a big Senate race in Maryland right now. So let's come back to it. Only what matters in an election is policy. That's all that really matters, is where they stand on the issues. You're the executive. You have the bully pulpit. You'll sign what legislation you want to sign, veto what you want to sign, appoint, do this, do that, right? So what you think about the issues is really mostly what matters. Also, can they wheel and deal, and can they force their will? Can they allow their will to conquer everybody else in the state house's will and the governor, you know, like what position? So here we have in Maryland, Donna Edwards is running against Chris Van Hollen, and they're talking about, I don't know, different shit. She says something about you cannot tolerate any cuts to Medicare and Social Security, which I agree with. Seems like just, you know, Donna Edwards is her name, Chris Van Hollen. It seems like these are the two main ones who are running, and Donna Edwards is a black woman, so that's exciting. She could make history. Chris Van Hollen apparently is progressive enough to run against a black woman. So I don't know, it depends on where they actually stand on the different issues, but that's who's running in the Senate race. So you're going to have Donna Edwards, Chris Van Hollen in the Senate race, in addition to Bernie Sanders and Hillary. And then if you're Baltimore, you're going to have a decision to make with the mayoral race, which is where D-Ray, is running, the Black Lives activist, D-Ray McKesson. They also have early voting. So he's getting people to go out and vote early. Here I see Pugh for mayor, P-U-G-H. So that's another person running for mayor. I like D-Ray McKesson, I guess that's his name. He should be, yeah, vote for him. That's I like him, D-Ray McKesson. And I'm not sure who else is running that. Puke. You're going to vote for Puke over fucking, you know, whatever. Okay, Catherine Pug. Mrs. Pug grew up in a family of 7 kids in Philadelphia. So, okay, so she might be okay. I don't know who's running. Fuck, you look at your own damn candidates and make a determination. But the mayoral race and the Senate race of Maryland will add to the appeal. There's also congressional races, too. And I think all of them, right? In their congressional, I know there is in Kentucky. And so I need to check who the fuck I'm going to be voting for. So there's early voting. They're talking about early voting. D-Rye, and then the black woman. 12 lawmakers endorse Catherine Pug for Baltimore mayor. She's a black woman too. So this is exciting for black folks. And someone was saying that more black folks help Hillary. No, nobody has voted or fought harder for black folks than Bernie Sanders, and that tells me very clearly you fight your entire fucking life for black people. 50 years. You fought for integration. You fought against wars and economic deprivation and crime bills, and you stood up against this shit. Every turn of history, Bernie Sanders has been on the right side of history when it comes to protecting black people, protecting the rights of black people, fighting on behalf, against the drug wars, against the militarization of the police and poverty. So there's nobody more, that fights in favor of black people than Bernie Sanders. And so if black people actually researched and looked at what was going on, so it's unfortunate that anybody would look between Hillary and Bernie and say that she is better. No, she's not. She's in favor of fracking, in favor of Monsanto. She's a big corporatist, imperialist fucking corporatist. She's conservative. She changes nothing. She changes, she's a liberal who's going to fuck over the progressive movement every step of the fucking way. Dozen Baltimore area lawmakers on Wednesday said they were endorsing State Senator Catherine E. Pugh for mayor of Baltimore, and so I don't know who else is running besides Pugh, and that D-Rye. So these lawmakers are supporting their politician, their political insider, because they don't want D-Rye McKesson. He'd be good. He'd be good. He'd be a great face, actually, for Baltimore, especially after, the Baltimore riots. I mean, that's going to be huge. So, Democratic primary, right? There's a black woman and a white man. Who's going to win between that? Donna Edwards versus Chris Van Hollen. So I got all these bags here. So I'm in an RV, but the RV doesn't start. There's no electricity. It doesn't, the auxiliary, there's like these buttons up here, battery disconnect, auxiliary, main battery. There's 2 buttons up there, on and off switch. They're sitting in the middle, so you push it to go on, push it to go off. So I assume main battery is working right now. So I've tried all sorts of combinations, main battery on, main battery off, auxiliary on, auxiliary off, both on, both off, one on, one off. So the battery doesn't work, and I need the levelers up, so because I'm sitting on my tires. So I'm sitting on my tires. I'm watching Mowgli right now, the live action, Jungle Book. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bags to organize. This fucking thing, all this shit is all crowded in shit, and I need to get this shit started. I need to turn on the... Just saw this article, sad as shit, just happened in fucking Delaware. I don't know what the hell is going on in Delaware schools, but a bunch of kids were bullying this woman, and they beat her to death. They killed her. 16-year-old girl beaten to death in the high school bathroom in Wilmington, Delaware. So not only does Delaware go ahead and take all those, offshore bank accounts, Swiss fucking, Cayman Island type of Panama Papers kind of, secret, low corporate tax, loophole type of shit. Delaware does that. They have like a whole bunch of the Fortune 1000 companies there. And then they are also tiny, and they have an racist fucking name. Delaware is the exonym for the Lenape people, so they're inherently, just by their, their name is racist. But now you're killing your fucking own 16-year-old girls. In Howard High School of Technology principal Stanley Spohr said the 10th grader was allegedly attacked by 2 students in a restroom around 8:15 a.m. just before classes began at the Wilmington, Delaware school. Found in critical condition, the student was rushed to a state police helicopter to the A.I. DuPont Hospital for Children, where she died from her injuries. Apparently, they were pushing her around. She fell and she hit her fucking neck, and it killed her. The fight was over a boy. The victim was fighting with another girl in the bathroom when she was jumped. So there was multiple girls that were in on this. She was fighting a girl, and that's when all these other girls started banking her, like jumping her, and she hit her head on the sink. Kayla Wilson said police wouldn't reveal any details of the case, but confirmed they're interviewing 2 female students believed to have been involved in the attack. Oh, that's an interview. Once you arrest them, they just killed a fucking 16-year-old girl. Mean girls are now killing other girls. So this is school. This all has to do with oppression, the hierarchy, lack of democracy. Is there any fucking democratic classrooms? Do we ever learn how to get along, or do we just follow the tyrannical fucking dictator? When do we talk to each other, amongst each other, about ourselves? When do we get to control our own lives? So this is, fucking bullshit. This is heartbreaking, and it could be preventable if people were, against oppression and slavery and pointless intellectual slavery. Just do the fucking work because you're told to do it. No, you inspire the curiosity, and then you govern your own life just like you would govern anywhere else. What else about Delaware pisses me off? Oh yeah, I figured out the reason why I'm giving Delaware and Maryland a fucking hard time, because the 538 list or whatever, that Nate Silver guy had a list of Bernie Sanders can still win this election. Here's the states he's got to win, and here's the ones he's got to, he's okay to lose. And they mentioned Maryland and Delaware. Maryland and fucking Delaware were going for Hillary Clinton, when all the other states, like after Arizona, every state was just going to go for Bernie, except for Maryland and Delaware. What the fuck, Maryland? What the fuck, Delaware? Delaware, you only got 22 fucking delegates, so you could suck my dick. You're basically irrelevant. You're not as relevant as Puerto Rico, which has 60 delegates. So you're only a third, of the relevance of Puerto Rico. So Delaware could kiss my fucking ass. But if they go for Bernie, then that'd be a great upset, and I'll eat my words and I'll apologize. I was wrong with Nevada, and so but all the other fucking Arizona, fucking Mississippi, the southern states, New York, suck my dick. Y'all shitty states. You're shitty fucking states to live in. You're not good fucking people. You have no sense of moral clarity. You have no sense of justice. You have no sense of right and wrong. Bernie wants to legalize it. Bernie wants to demilitarize the police. Bernie wants to give free college, free education, or health care. So universal education, universal health care, universal child care, family leave, so the fathers and the mothers can spend time with the newborn when they're, because children are the future. And these are things that all the countries in the fucking world, all the industrialized nations already have anyways. Not just free healthcare, but free college. We can afford this. These are the education of your people. How much, if you think education is expensive, then try ignorance. So why would a nation not want their people to be educated? Maybe they want the people to be manipulated and to always work like dogs and had to pay taxes and just be, working slaves for the rest of their fucking lives. But business, people like doing business in Denmark because, it's a highly populated, highly educated class, and lots of workers, lots of smart things, and it's a high quality of living. People want high class, high quality living. You don't want a bunch of dumb fucks that don't know shit all over the fucking place, mucking your world up. So that's the reason why I'm giving Delaware and Maryland kind of a hard time. I'll forget about them afterwards. So this is, all eyes on Connecticut and Delaware and what were the other states? Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. So even tiny little Rhode Island is getting their day in the sun, right? Delaware is smaller than Rhode Island. Rhode Island is more significant than Delaware. And it's a semi-closed primary. All the other ones were closed primaries. So Pennsylvania, I heard it's supposed to be confusing as fuck. But Pennsylvania, we're going to learn something about them. The Steelers, Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Then Penn, named after William Penn, the city of brotherly love. In that Philadelphia. So Maryland, Annapolis, the Tamo, Pico, Compicos, the Tayo, whatever the fucking Native Americans that they killed. The Land of Mary. It's a ancient, aristocratic, named after an aristocratic imperialist, a fucking tyrant, a dictator, the wife of a dictator. So it's the Michelle Obama of Charles the First. And so Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Delaware, Connecticut, Connecticut is connect, like you spell it, connect, C-O-N-N-E-C-T. Connecticut. Connecticut. That's an interesting state. 55. So it'd be the one in significance. You got Pennsylvania's number 1, Maryland's number 2, Connecticut's number 3. 55. It's the same as Kentucky. We got 55 delegates also, and then Rhode Island, and then fucking Delaware. So, fucking Delaware, I have no hope for Delaware. Maryland, I got some hope for you all, but not really. Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island. We can win 3 states. I mean, we're still winning majorities. So, 61% is what he's got to win from here on out. But that's doable. That's fucking doable. 61%. So, that's 3 of 5 is 60%. So, he's got to do a little bit better than that. He's got to get 4. He's got to win 4 of 5. Shit. 61%, at least 61% or more for every fucking election, every state from here on out. You got to. He's got to. So I got to be on the fucking phones freaking out until he is elected because I give a shit and this is my way. Okay? Okay.